Hello, hello. Welcome to Hygiene Elevated Conversations and Innovations. We're so happy to have with us today Dr. James Younger, DDS and CEO of Temp Stars. Thank you so much for joining us, James.
Thank you, guys. I'm really thrilled to be here and just a big fan of the podcast. And I know my good friend Fiona was on a few weeks back and she just had great things to say about it. So I'm really excited to be here. So thank you.
We are absolutely honored to get to work with you guys and other RDHs out there. So this is awesome. Yeah. So let's get the conversation started. James, could you share a bit why you decided to start TempStars and the key goals you set out to achieve?
Yeah, it just has very humble beginnings. I've been a practicing dentist for 25 years. I still practice dentistry. I work at a mental health hospital out of the clinic there, and I do a lot of volunteer dentistry as well. And back in 2015, I ran a fairly large reconstructive full mouth cosmetic practice with doing implants and sinus surgeries and bone grafts and all of that kind of stuff and loving it. And I was just my current frustration at the time was on my team. Sometimes I would get a text message at 4:00 in the morning saying, I can't come in for 8:00. And I had an associate, but I was a solo practitioner, not part of a large group or anything like that. So it was often me who would just have to get up at 7 in the morning and go in and start making phone calls and things like that. And I felt very stranded. And I thought there has to be, because you get a knot in your stomach at 4:00 in the morning. You can't get back to sleep thinking, what are we going to do with these patients and that kind of thing. Yeah. So there really was no great solution and there was no way to connect directly with people who might be available. So I thought there has to be a way I could use my phone to let people know I need somebody. And interestingly, I'm based out of the Toronto area. Uber had not arrived in Toronto. I had never even heard of Uber. And so at the time I had this idea and I was, I wonder if it worked like this. And I would kind of bounce the idea off people and they would say, is that like Uber? I don't know what Uber is, but maybe. But that was kind of the seed of the idea. And I literally went to Staples and I bought pencils and grid paper to draw out these little screens with buttons and arrows about how it might work and things like that. So fundamentally, it was something that I knew that my friends and colleagues struggled with, but also working with dozens and dozens of fantastic dental professionals who are always looking for their next work home, looking for flexible work and things like that, and wanting to feel respected at work. And I thought, what a great opportunity that I could hopefully build something that serves the dental office owners and managers with kind of reducing that stress, but at the same time, give that flexibility to dental professionals so that they never feel stranded in a job thinking, I don't have any options because I have a mortgage to pay and I don't like this work, and I'd love to go somewhere else, but I don't want to take that risk and things like that. So it just felt like a really exciting opportunity at the time. And like I said, that was back in 2015 when I started sketching out on the grid paper and things like that. So that was really the entire impetus of it. And I love owning and running a dental practice. And I knew that, and I actually sold the dental practice to pursue TempStars. And you'd think that was risky, but in my mind, I thought, well, I don't know if this thing's going to work or not, but if it doesn't, I'll just happily go back and own another practice, start another practice, run another practice. I love it. And I would just happily sail off into the sunset doing dentistry. But yeah, and TempStars just kept hitting little tiny small glimpses of growth and success that I set for myself, and it kept surpassing those. So yeah, I really just kind of stuck with it and kept growing it.
That's awesome.
So cool.
So something you said is so interesting to me. I just have to ask more about it. So having a practice with cosmetic surgery and implants and everything can be very lucrative and can be really cool when you're the owner to design the practice the way you want. So the way you're practicing now in a mental hospital, that's completely different.
Yeah.
So I want to know what it does for your heart working in that kind of environment versus owning your practice and the kind of procedures you were doing before.
Olivia, I love that question. And I'll tell you, I don't think there'll be a time where I don't do clinical dentistry because I just fundamentally love it. Now, one of the realities would be that if I was trying to grow TempStars and run a big busy practice at the same time, something would break. The reason I love working at the mental health hospital is there's no business. I'm not running a business at the hospital. And I know it's a small detail, but my compensation for working at the mental health hospital, as much as I do volunteer dentistry, it's a paid position, but I just get paid for the day. So I don't have to worry about production. I don't have to worry about doing a certain number of procedures or anything like that. And it's such a fundamentally pure way to practice out of kindness and helping people, because people with mental health challenges, they don't always have good days. They don't always come in wanting the work done that you had originally on the schedule. And for me to be able to sit there and say, something like, on the schedule, this is kind of what we had planned for today, but does anything feel more important to you? Is there anything else I can help you with? And just to have that kind of fundamental purity of just wanting to help people through dentistry, it's a really rewarding way to practice. And similarly, I also like that element of the volunteer work is just you're there to help, and there's none of those other things that often come around with doing dentistry and that sort of thing. So I love it. It's a great day to work, and it's just a nice way to be able to help people and be appreciated and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's like Olivia said, like warms your heart. It checks all the boxes because you're taking care of your four walls, right? Like you're still getting paid, but being able to help people where they're at, helping those patients we have plenty of patients that are anxious, right? But not so much in a mental health crisis.
Right.
Being able to be that for patients and being an advocate, that's fantastic. That's patient advocacy right there.
I think so. And I gravitate towards it too, because I like to think I'm just a kind patient person who wants to help. And so everything is just hyper permission based, right? So, and I don't have an agenda. I just say, what if we start off with, I just lean the chair back and this is the mirror. I'm just going to take a look. Is that okay? But I don't have an agenda. And if they say, I don't want that anymore, I say, okay, that's perfectly fine. Let's do this another day. We'll figure out when we can help and things like that. So yeah, it's a nice way. It's a really nice way to kind of maintain that clinical help.
That's so nice. And I know that when you own a business, you never turn off. Totally, right? Doesn't matter if it's Saturday night or Sunday morning, TempStars is probably still on your mind. So it's nice that you have some time where you don't have to worry about the dental business. So now, as a hygienist, right, when we're looking for a staffing agency or a temping agency, we have a ton of options these days. So what would make somebody choose to partner with or use TempStars? Do you feel like there's something unique about it?
Well, yeah, and it is interesting that as there are these digital platforms emerging, at the time of TempStars, there was cloud dentistry was there, but they hadn't operated out that way. And so as we've been growing and as we've been expanding, we realize we're bumping into our people. Sometimes I will look at someone's and I'm like, I wrote that. And so a lot we've always been the kind of the trailblazers, innovators in this space, and having launched that first element of this ability to connect directly that way. But I would say that what differentiates us is, if you had to boil it down to its essence, is what I care about and what our team cares about and what I've been lucky enough to surround myself with is people who genuinely care about making those positive impacts in the work lives of dental professionals. So when we have our operations meetings, when we're having discussing, there's no cynicism. There's not even any talk of business interests and things like that. We're just like, oh, what happened this week? Oh, how could we make that better? Oh, let's reach out to that person. Let's see if there's a way we can improve our product that way and that sort of thing. So fundamentally, we really do get overwhelmingly positive feedback. And if you check out our Google reviews and all of those different things, we're quite well liked for the most part. Every once in a while, we get a 1-star review, of course, for something, but we listen and we respond. And what drives us is just making the service better for people, helping that flexibility. And then on a fundamental business level, we intentionally keep our fee as low as possible so that it gives those dental offices flexibility to pay dental hygienists and dental assistants a bit more. So rather than charging $400 for a placement or things like that, we just charge $38. And so if a dental office is looking at that, they say, oh, well, it balances out, because even if I am paying a little bit more for an hourly rate in this situation, the placement fee is so low that it just balances out that way. So often it's an opportunity for people to earn more. We don't charge for permanent hiring, so you never have to feel locked in. So you can just, if you're looking for a job, you can just go around temping everywhere, find offices you like. And if the office is hiring, they can just hire you. They don't even have to tell us. We're just happy to make that good connection. We don't charge $6,000 for a finder's fee or anything like that. And it's just, I think it's our culture. I mean, we have full-time customer support that's super friendly and responsive. And again, we're just the leaders and innovator in terms of how we're providing the service, even through the digital platform and things like that. So yeah, I think those are kind of the essences of it.
So I'm an office manager, and the prices of placement fees and temping fees, they hurt recently. I am really excited to hear about no placement fee and that low fee, because you want to be able to pay the professionals well. You want to be able to connect with professionals that will fit well for your office. So that's really nice. You guys make it accessible.
Well, and I think it comes down to, when I came up with the idea, all I wanted was to solve this problem in the way that everybody in dentistry knows that it kind of should be solved. So not having any gotchas, not having any lock-ins, not having any, oh, that sounds good, except for this little catch sort of thing. So there just are no catches. I just think about it and operate it the way that I would want it run, that dental professionals would want it run, and just fundamentally do those things.
Oh, that sounds like you're doing business differently than some other people out there. So karma's real, right?
Well, we really try. Yeah, it has to do with our focus and the thing we care about and how we make our decisions and how we listen and respond. We don't have an agenda other than if someone says something like, oh, it would be better if this, then we digest that. We figure out, okay, well, what? Okay, yeah, I think we could improve it this way. We just kind of move forward with those things.
So you've been in the industry almost 10 years now, specifically, I know, right? How do you see the future of dental staffing and agency work evolving? And how do you see the role of TempStars playing in that evolution?
Well, there's a few things that have really been on my mind, even in the last 4 months or so, is that there's a technology platform, but I don't really think of TempStars as an app. The app is the way that we deliver the value and those sorts of things. But I'm really giving a lot of thought about community building and relationships and partnerships and things like that, to the point where, I really just about bringing that good thing to the dental profession, helping the work lives of dental professionals. So, one small idea is bringing in a filter for volunteer opportunities. So if you're a dental hygienist or a dental assistant and you're like, oh, I'd love to, maybe you're a new grad or things like that, and you want to get some experience, or you just want to give back on a Saturday when you're available, just be able to find easy charitable opportunities that way, even through a mentorship program, and just connecting people in different ways that really sets up as a community and success in their career. So I really think that fundamentally will be it. And as much as we're pushing the bleeding edge of innovation and technology from a platform standpoint, but ultimately you reach a point where that can be diminishing returns. People can continue to be delighted with the digital solution, but eventually the thing is community building, trust building, relationship building, and just really providing that kind of holistic career success in the dental profession. And I really think that that's just been on my mind, and it's a direction that we're going to continue to head.
That's encouraging and exciting to hear, especially as RDHs. I think for so long we've only seen very limited growth within our profession. I think we've been kind of, I don't want to say mentally stuck, but just our scope of where we thought we could practice has been just so narrow.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last 5 years has really opened things up. The last few years has opened my perspective up significantly. So I think having another platform and another avenue for you to provide for hygienists is really awesome. So as a hygienist, thank you for doing business nicely and dealing kindly with us. So
Now, could I ask, if you don't mind me asking a question, can I push it? Can I kind of flip that around and say, thinking about TempStars, what are some things you just wish or hope we would be like, or what we grow into, or how we operate, or things like that? Like, what are those kind of key frustrations and pain points that you're thinking, boy, TempStars sounds different, but I sure hope they're like this, or I hope they solve this problem that we're always experiencing, and things like that?
Well, I can give you two things I want to say. First, to go back about the volunteer opportunities, I think that's so awesome, because as I interview professionals to hire them in our office, I can say a high rate, benefits, and they're like, okay, yes. But when I tell them, oh, and we do volunteer work, they go, oh, what? Really? I wish I've always wanted to do that. So I think it's so nice to connect people to opportunities, because at their heart, dental professionals really care and want to, but don't always know where they can or how. So exactly. I think that's perfect. I can give you from the office manager standpoint.
Please.
It's about the fees. Right now, hygienists are asking for very, very high rates, but they don't always deliver with what they're asking for. I'm a hygienist myself. I want to get paid well, but I'm also a hygienist that probes all the time, that does oral cancer screenings, that recommends products and services that the patients need. So I deserve to get paid well because I work super hard. If a hygienist asks for a super high rate and they come in and they don't pay a chart, they don't do notes, they sit on their phone in between patients, it's really, really frustrating. And it's like the rates that they're requesting are just so high. So for me, I would love a staffing agency that is able to be the middle person and negotiate reasonable fees or
Mm-hmm.
handle issues when they come up, so that me and the professional don't have to go back and forth about the rate. That will
Right.
make my life much easier.
I love that, because
Interesting.
I think there could be a perception that being in the profession for a certain number of years, meaning I've been a dental hygienist for 5 years, and this is what dental hygienists who have 5 years experience make. But there's an entire range of clinical diligence and patient care that fall in that. And so I think what you're suggesting is there's a frustration between just being, a hygienist here, and that must be what that hourly rate is, relative to or compared to providing value related to that as it pertains to patient care and good office interactions and things like that. So you want to make sure those line up better, because that higher hourly rate is fine, but you want to make sure that higher hourly rate is justified and provides value by higher levels of professionalism, clinical care, patient care, all of those sorts of things.
Exactly. So Amanda, I don't know if you can speak to, as a clinical hygienist, the things that you would look for more.
Well, so as you were kind of speaking on that situation, an instance came to mind. So I don't do a lot of temping because I'm super busy. I work 4 days clinical, and I've started speaking. I do the podcast. I'm in school. I'm writing. I'm doing a lot. So I'm gone. I have been gone so much this month. So we've needed temps. And for the most part, we're able to pool within our DSO.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're not, we do have to go. We're contracted with a big agency. And we got a temp that has not practiced in 15 years. And today was her, well, not today, but my office was her first day back after 15 years.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't know that.
Right.
And so we had an SRP on there. And I mean, she's not going to stage and grade. She doesn't know open dental. She's not going to know a nomad, which fortunately I have a wonderful hygiene assistant who was able to help her with stuff. And my doctor jumped in and did anesthesia. But clinically, those skills are not going to be a $45, $50 an hour position.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to redo some stuff, things like that. So I don't want to degrade people or clinicians or disrespect them, but maybe almost like a bio or like a grading system of like, hey, this hygienist has this much experience. She's regularly staffing, like a little less unknown when you're trying to fill your position, because those patients, like I have been the only hygienist those patients have known for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I do feel bad whenever I have to leave, but I also have to leave, like mental health. I got to do my own stuff.
Yeah.
So knowing that I'm leaving my patients in good hands is peace of mind for me as a provider.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we're always a work in progress, but I will tell you just a couple of things that are coming down the pipeline, because we're super comprehensive and diligent about our membership management from a dental office standpoint and from a dental hygienist and assistant standpoint. So we're fleshing out a more comprehensive feedback mechanism for dental offices. Because right now it's quite simple. It just says, how happy would you be to have this person work at your office again? And you can say very happy, happy, or unhappy. Now, even currently, we've completed over 110,000 temping shifts at this point, which is ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous to even say that. And when we look at just temping, anyway, hygienists and assistants have earned over $30 million through our service, just through those connections and that kind of thing. So with all of that said, 97.1% of the time, the dental offices say happy or very happy. And that's related to diligence and membership management, but also if someone is developing a track record for, say, reliability concerns or patient care and clinical skill concerns, we don't immediately sideline them, but we made courses to say, it looks like you might be trending this way. We still want you to be successful. So here, just can you take these things? This might help you along the way and that kind of thing. If someone's on that path and they take those courses and they do the quiz and all of that sort of stuff, we kind of give them, and we keep a close eye on them to make sure that they're trending in the right direction and that sort of thing. But I always think of it from a community and holistic standpoint, because if a dental hygienist or assistant goes to work at a dental office and it's a bad experience for that office, and the office says, oh, we're not using TempStars anymore. Well, you could think superficially that I worry most about that because that's my business. But what I worry most about is if that dental office stops using TempStars, then that cuts off every other opportunity for every other hygienist or assistant who might have picked up a temping shift there or gotten a great job there. And so we're really diligent to make sure that our community remains healthy. And so, and even from a dental office standpoint, fleshing out the feedback so you can say, oh, this dental office had, and it'll be categorized soon of, friendly team, good equipment, infection controls up to speed, like all of those different things. So even as a hygienist or assistant, you'd have the confidence to know, oh, somebody went in there before me, and these are the things that were said about it. And also maintaining those kind of profiles and track records from a dental hygienist and assistant standpoint. So there's some transparency there in terms of what the expectation is.
That's awesome. So like Airbnb, you're rating
A
each
little
other.
bit like
Dating
that.
app here. Dating app with in there.
It's something, because fundamentally the technical term for our business is two-sided marketplace platform. And so what that means is two sides meet to exchange value. So you're 100% right. It could be a dating app is like that. Airbnb is like that. Uber is like that. eBay is like that. So it's that contingent upon running a good community platform is super high attention to detail and diligence for who is making connections on your platform to make sure that everybody can have trust and some real predictability in what you're going to get when you use it.
I just have to say, I am so proud of that hygienist who wasn't practicing for 15 years, but she's back at it. I mean, that's amazing. I just feel like if somebody's been out a long time, maybe there's a way they can ease into it. Maybe they can do like a shadowing day or a volunteer day. Just to kind of get their feet wet before they dive in. But I'm so proud of that hygienist for coming back.
I bet she was super nervous too.
I am biased, but I think we have the best staff ever. But they were all kind of shook. Like, oh my gosh.
Understandable.
So yeah, that they didn't know, and so I think it was like a couple patients in. She told my assistant, "Oh, I haven't practiced in 15 years," and they were just like, "What?"
Right.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she's feeling good and ready to go now. Okay. So James, I'm sure you hear a lot of feedback from offices, and you see when they rate a hygienist well, and you see when they don't rate them well. So if a hygienist wants to become the kind of temp that is highly requested, people want them in their office, what kind of things can they do to be in demand?
Yeah, and we get lots and lots of feedback to digest so that we do really have a good beat on those themes. So definitely arriving early or at the very latest on time really matters, because if you're not there on time and if you haven't communicated with the office, then it's just this big question mark, like, when is this person going to walk in? We have patients in it. So it's stressful, right? So that doesn't necessarily make an immediate good first impression. But if you show up early and the office is like, okay, they're here, we know that at least that part is good. And then just coming in and being friendly, connecting with the office and building your professional network is really helpful as well. But then on top of that, there is the element of clinical skill, to be sure. You could never discount the importance of providing actual good clinical care. So whether that's the perio treatment or the x-rays or impressions or whatever you're doing from a clinical standpoint, that has to be right up there. Also following an infection control and PPE. And so we see both sides, and I don't mean they're equally valid, maybe. But so imagine as a dental hygienist, you could go into an office and say, I'm concerned about their infection control. And that's fair. And we get that feedback, and we make sure we manage our dental office membership according to safety and all of those different things. And if there's an office that's not providing this good experience, we remove them. But at the same time, some offices are super diligent about PPE, but then a dental hygienist assistant can come in and just not know the right protocols, or maybe they're not even up to speed on those guidelines and things like that. So I would say that making sure that you're up to speed and diligent with the infection control, because as a professional, it shouldn't in a perfect world matter what is happening in that office, but your own internal professional diligence to infection control, PPE, patient safety, workplace safety, and things like that, pretty important. And then personal demeanor, just communication style, communication with patients, interaction with the dental office, and being, even though from a temping standpoint, imagine you're just there for one day, but some people naturally gravitate to feel like they're part of the team for that day and help out and offer to do this and that kind of thing. And then some people will go in and feel completely disconnected and think, I'm only here for this day. I'm not accountable to anything I'm doing. I'm just going to see the patients and I don't care what else happens, sort of thing. And often there's some negative feedback associated with that type of mentality as well. So I think it's a whole package. It's that professionalism mentality. It's a dedication to clinical skill, punctuality, time management, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
It is good advice.
Yeah.
So James, many of our listeners are really ambitious dental hygienists and entrepreneurs. They typically go to RDH under one roof. So can you share some business strategies or networking tips that have been really essential and helpful for your journey as a founder in the dental industry?
Well, I'll give you maybe just a couple. I could probably do many hours talking about that, but just here's what I would consider my nuggets. One is that you have to, especially if you're starting out on a new venture, you have to abandon this failure mentality. You just have to think iterations and success and progress. So everybody that you see that's successful, that you're like, wow, what a polished thing, and they really have their stuff, they did not start off that way. But you just often don't see it, you don't hear about it, but everybody struggles in the beginning. And if you get too down on yourself and say, oh, this will never work, but just put that mentality aside and say, this is the first time doing it. And I have that myself. I just think the first time I'm doing anything, it's a mess. It's just a disaster. And I just accept that and I say, well, this is my learning opportunity from the first time of doing this. And then the second time is better. And then I just took that patience to keep iterating on it. And as long as you care enough about what you're trying to accomplish and that goal you're trying to pursue, then it dusts you off. It gets you stood back up, because there's a funny thing about Temp Stars that, especially early on, people say, oh, Temp Stars, I wish I had that idea. And my response genuinely is, if you knew how much work this was, you would thank God you didn't have this idea. Because it's hard, but I love it. And you'll get punched in the stomach 20 times. But if you're pursuing something that you care enough about, you just get up and you're like, okay, let's keep going, kind of thing. But so I think that caring about that thing to pursue and seeing it in that mindset is really helpful, thinking iteratively. The other thing that I feel strongly about, and it served me well, is there's nothing I ever do related to business that I don't know something about on at least a mid-level. Like, there's nothing I don't know anything about related to TempStars or even my dental practice. So, for example, coding, right? So we have two fantastic engineers. If I didn't know how to code, or especially in the early days when I was interviewing coders, if I had taken full stack web development, database architecture, all of these things, so I could have intelligent conversations about them, so that I could kind of vet and know and have those types of conversations. Because if you're leading a team, that's a technical team, you just won't get that dynamic, you won't get that respect, and you won't be able to push back. And so even for our technical team, they'll say, oh, that's going to take this long to do that. It's going to be like this. And with what I've learned, I can say, well, I get what you're saying, but what if we did it this way? Like, that's brilliant, because that would only take us 1 week to do instead if we took that approach. So just that idea of, if there's elements that you think, oh, I don't know anything about this, I'm just going to abdicate that to professionals or experts or things like that and hope they know what they're doing. To me, that's a recipe for frustration and not success.
That's really interesting. And I think it's solid advice. I mean, being able to speak the lingo, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to know everything, just enough to be dangerous and competent.
Right. Yeah. Even from a technical standpoint, I know many, many people who are just paying exorbitant fees for engineering time because they just don't know the relative time and bandwidth that would be required to do certain technical things. So they hire an agency to do a thing, and the agency, that's going to be $80,000. I can pull that in a weekend, kind of thing. So there's that element of taking responsibility for your own awareness of all the different moving parts, kind of thing.
Would you say that, like, you're just like super overwhelmed and you're like, this is not even within my bandwidth, but maybe having a good network of people to bounce ideas off of and find out maybe how they did something or get some insights from them would also be really helpful if you just weren't up for learning coding or something like that.
Yeah, and I agree. So there are limits to what you have the time to learn, right? Because I was just a few weeks ago, I was speaking with a dentist, super successful, multiple practices, also owns a brewery and runs a technology company. And he doesn't know anything about coding. And he's paying ridiculous, but at the same time, is he going to stop owning these practices, sell the brewery just to learn coding so that he pays less for it? So you kind of have to balance your time and your effort and what you actually want to dedicate yourself to learning. But whether through a network or watching YouTube videos or wherever, at least arm yourself with some perspective that's related to those different elements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good advice, because a lot of hygienists now that are kind of like in our network, some are creating their own products. Some have their own dental practices. Some are starting speaking. Some are doing content creation. Some are doing infection control business, ergonomic businesses. So there's such a wide variety of things that hygienists are doing, but it can be really intimidating at the beginning to think, okay, what is my first step and who do I connect with?
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for hygienists who are looking to like level up and take the next step of how they can explore like new roles and make these impactful connections?
Well, if I were trying to think of something, I guess it would be because knowing that if you're ever going to try something new, it's going to be hard in the beginning. And so to pick something that you care enough about to realize that, yes, this is hard, but I care enough about it to keep going, I would suggest that's probably a nice place to start. Identify a problem that you yourself might be experiencing, but others, and maybe a gap in the marketplace, but also a way to deliver value to others. Because ultimately what things often boil down to is, are you able to provide value to other people? And then, you can do that by volunteering. But then if you're thinking, well, I want to run a successful business, then there's an extra element of, can I profitably provide value to other people? And then you distill down, well, what is value to other people? Who's my audience? What are they wanting? What do they value? And how can I profitably, and again, just from a business context, how can I profitably deliver that value consistently and at scale in a way that follows my passion and those sorts of things? So I think there's different paths that you can go down that would capture those different elements. But I think for me, at least, that has been a recipe for perseverance and persistence and growing a team and all of those different things. And even just defining what your mission, vision, and values are, to kind of fundamentally have a nice, clear picture of where you want to go is really valuable too.
Knowing your why.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me. I appreciate something that you said a little bit ago. It resonated with me of not being afraid to do something for the first time, not being afraid to fail, not being afraid of it being messy.
Mm-hmm.
This was my first speaking engagement this past weekend, and from my perspective, it was messy. It wasn't a fail, but it was like it was good feedback. But I was so excited afterwards. I was like, I didn't suck.
Right.
They didn't kick me out. They did not pay me, but it was good experience. And so all of those but what if this, what if this, what if this, I finally had the real experience to sit down and go through it. And so
it's huge.
With whatever you do, I mean, online stuff, when I started my content creator page, I was constantly like, gosh, what if somebody asks me this? What if somebody says something mean on my page? Or what if, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, what if they don't? What if I succeed?
Yeah.
I'll take it when they handle it. I'm going to say something. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And that's fine.
Yeah.
So.
It's true. And I felt this for a long time, that there's always room for someone who keeps going. It's just, if you're following your thing, there's room, because to your point, making a number up, but 80% of people, 90% of people would stop doing it because of that fear and frustration, right? So there's always going to be room in the world for people who are pursuing those things that keep going on that thing. And eventually, providing value, but at the same time, sometimes just everybody else falls away because they've given up, or they got too scared, or they did something else, or things like that. But it's that passion and perseverance that'll kind of keep you going and rising.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, it's funny. I just did my first speaking engagement on Friday too. Yeah, I was so nervous. Yeah. And I think it went well. I got a lot of positive feedback, but of course, nobody tells you that was a waste of time to your face. But I think it went well. And the topic was called "The Business Case for Creating a Healthy Team Culture in a Dental Office." And I was the idea of convincing dental office owners and managers that building a healthy team culture is not soft, fuzzy stuff you can't build for that's not good for business. It's actually aligned with running and growing a successful and profitable business. So kind of combining those two things and giving some fundamentals about how you build a healthy team culture and things like that. So yeah, I think it went reasonably well, and I like talking about that kind of stuff, so I was excited about the talk.
Well, that is one of my favorite topics. It makes such a difference, the office that I'm in now, it's going to be 9 years. It's 9 years that I've been there. And before I worked in that office, oftentimes I worked in places 1 or 2 years, and then I would find something else. But because in my office, my boss is so respectful and she's so kind, that to me trumps higher pay somewhere else or a better commute, because I have, professional autonomy, respect, the comfortable environment, I stay. And I've seen that over and over again. Some dentists feel like, oh, let me just rule with a harsh fist or be super strict. But in the long run, it doesn't pay off. A happy staff is a more productive staff. So I feel so passionate about that.
Yeah, that's it. That was the basis of the talk. And to your point too, that by treating you well and you staying there, I mean, if you want to just talk business sense, then the turnover cost of you saying, oh, I don't like it here, I'm leaving. And from a business standpoint, it is frustrating, and it affects patient care, and it affects all the patient experiences and the cost of recruiting and all of those sorts of things. So there's a business case for just treating people well, even though it's also just the right thing to do.
Treating people good.
Yeah, right.
Did you have any low cost ideas for business owners on things they can do to make their team feel appreciated?
Well, one of the things that I found, and just speaking with dentists and my friends and colleagues and things like that, one of the things I was talking about in the lecture was to take some time and self-reflection about thinking about what your mission, vision, and values are. Because when you get down to values, the values are the thing that infuse the culture. And so as you can work on your values and live your values and reinforce the values and lead and manage the team makeup based on those values, that is the way towards building that cohesive culture and a healthy team culture. But I think that would be low cost, but it does take some self-reflection. It takes some time and to figure out and to kind of document things and rework them a little bit, but figure out what are the values of this practice, where are we going, and what does it look like when we get there. A lot of what I talked about was that, because it does take time and you can't bill for it. And one of my little pictures on a slide was a guy tying his shoes, because you're like, well, he's tying his shoes. He's not going forward right now. He's tying his shoes so that he can run faster. And so you're right. It's almost like that's not billable. That's not getting you 10 meters closer to the finish line at the moment, but you're tying your shoes so that you can get there faster, kind of thing. And I see that the time that you can invest in the team and elucidating your values and building that culture is that kind of thing that, yeah, it's not billing $400 for some fillings, but it's the thing that allows your business to kind of accelerate as well.
Wonderful.
Okay, fun little anecdotal story. My office, how we deal with discrepancies is over Mario Kart Not 5.
Ooh. Nice. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
Tomorrow is Halloween, and we're all dressing up as Mario Kart characters. So.
That's funny.
Yeah. I am not good at Mario Kart, so I have to still argue. Okay, I'm gonna lose, guys.
Right. Oh, that's funny. That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you are working with or partnering with the dental industry leaders to help grow your platform at TempStars and content creators, etc., what qualities are you looking for in those partners?
I think it fundamentally, and I talked to so we just had a medium-sized convention, and that was the one I was speaking at. And of course, we had a booth there, but there was, maybe another 100 booths or so, maybe 150. And I just go around and speak with the people at the booths and talk about TempStars and what they could do and different things. But the thing I always go back to is culturally aligned with kind of authenticity and integrity. And so that passion of bringing the good things to the profession of dentistry and really thinking along those lines. And yeah, I think it just has to do with, I would have trouble working with somebody who wasn't necessarily aligned with my values and the things that I care about for the dental profession. Because there's certainly, and it's understandable, there's many companies out there, and not to begrudge them in any way, but are just very business and profit focused, which is okay. Our core mission is, helping dental professionals be happier at work. And so if I'm working with somebody, I like to think and know that they are also helping us pursue that mission at the same time as we're helping elevate their growth or those sorts of things. Because it's interesting. I mean, we've grown. I think we work with maybe 12,000 offices and 26,000 hygienists and assistants. And when I talk to other companies about that, like, we would love to work with you, kind of thing. But we have to be mindful about who we're working with and make sure that we're aligned with those values and what we're trying to bring to the profession. So I've been lucky enough. It's not like it's everyone, but I've been really lucky enough to find quite a few people just to work with and collaborate with and cross promote with that I really see eye to eye on with. So it's really nice.
I think they call that the vibe check.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? It's also it's good advice that you have to be if you're looking for different avenues of work, you have to be visible and you have to be present. Because if you don't attend those conferences and if you do attend and you don't talk to anybody, you don't have the opportunity for that vibe check and to see whose values you align with. So sometimes we have to push ourselves kind of outside of our comfort zone
Yeah.
and just talk to people and see where it clicks, huh?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, here's an example. We were thinking of working with a quite large company, but in the meetings with their executives, their question was, well, how do you maintain inventory? And my response was, well, our first secret is we don't call them inventory. And it was one of those corporate non-alignments in terms of how we see people and how we see the profession, right? And so that matters too.
100%.
Yeah.
So when you think about your history with your company, can you think of any experiences that kind of show the impact or why you're doing what you're doing, why this has been successful?
Well, yeah, I think it just has to do with we do get a lot of positive feedback, and of course we're happy with any negative feedback or opportunities to improve, but we just get really nice comments as we're growing. And I'll tell you, one small story was there was a woman who said, I think you maybe saved my life because I was in a really bad relationship and I had to escape with my kids and I didn't have a job or a place to stay. So I stayed in a hotel and I worked through TempStars until I could, so I could support myself and find a place to go and things like that. And I'm not saying that's every story, but there's things like that help also just reinforce to me that people do trust and rely on us, and we are making an impact that way. And as much as we're always a work in progress, we don't always get things 100% right, but just that pursuing that continual improvement so we can keep serving those types of opportunities and things like that, it's rewarding that way. And when I speak with people as we're expanding into the United States and across Canada as well, there's just a real need and a thirst for having an authentic way to solve problems versus necessarily corporate profit driven. And of course, you have to be mindful of running a successful business because that's how you grow. But at the same time, just bringing a service the way that everybody kind of knows that it should work and providing it that way, it's kind of kept us going.
Awesome. Okay, so you're expanding into the U.S. So tell us where we can find you in the United States and where are you coming?
Yeah, well, I mean, I really feel strongly and excited that across North America. And so our roadmap is all of Canada and all of the United States. And so we just kind of have a game plan for expanding that out because everywhere we go, there's people, when are you coming to our city? When are you coming there? Oh, we're not there yet, but we're coming in, that sort of thing. So officially, we're in Florida and we are in Tennessee and we're in Pennsylvania and Illinois and Massachusetts and Arizona and Idaho. And New York State is probably on our roadmap for next year. I'll tell you, it was one of those iterative thoughts is that, boy, New York is big. We don't want to learn in New York. And it's not like every other market's just an experiment to see how we can succeed. But we just thought New York and Texas are quite big, and we want to make sure we have some solid relationships, a good community built, and we really know how to navigate proper temping and hiring in the U.S. before we kind of go into those bigger markets. And we're really getting our feet. So yeah, we should be okay for there next year.
Very cool. Well, you let me know when you're ready. We'll be ready for you.
Olivia's practice is in New York, so she's Brooklyn.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well,
yeah.
James, looking back, I was just going to ask, what is one piece of advice that you'd give yourself when you first started your business? And what's something that took you too long to learn in the business?
Yeah. It's funny. It's hard to look back at wishing to do something differently because sometimes the way you did it is the way that it infused how you do it now. Mm-hmm. I think that probably from a design if I had to look back, probably from a design standpoint, like the first iteration of TempStars as an like a digital product, it was literally just my prototypes that I had whipped together and wired up to work. And I think I might have spent a little bit more time in the early days of just adding a little bit more polish to the experience and things like that. But still, maybe not too much, because you have to work iteratively and you have to get feedback. So if I would have spent too much time investing in that, maybe nobody would have cared, or maybe it would have been in the wrong direction. So even the designs just organically evolved as we got feedback and what people found valuable and things like that. I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I guess I would say that. I wish I had a better answer for that, but
No,
it's been very organic and I've just really enjoyed the journey. So I don't know if there's anything. I love learning. So even if there's something I didn't know then, I've just enjoyed the journey of getting experience and learning about it.
you seem like the kind of person that takes that criticism, or I mentioned I'm in school and we evaluate each other and we call them glow opportunities and grow opportunities. So it
Nice.
sounds like you have taken those grow opportunities and ran with it, and you didn't see it as a negative. And my perspective, it feels like how people perceive that feedback really determines so much success. Because it's not devastating for them.
Right.
They don't take it personal. Like, you're like, yeah, let's do this. Okay, let's make that change. Let's work on our inventory.
Yeah. And because, if we do get bad feedback, it's easy to think of that, oh, haters gonna hate kind of thing, right? Don't listen to it. But at the same time, just because someone's expressing something maybe in a unpleasant way doesn't mean they don't fundamentally maybe have an idea for us or a way we could improve. And so we're just really open to all the feedback, and I don't get defensive about it at all, because all we're trying to do is improve too. So, and I think that, we're just, despite maybe not getting it right 100% of the time, but listening and adjusting and correcting course as we go, I think that's just the right way to go. And we haven't dug our heels in about anything. We just want to continue to provide that service in a way that's valuable.
It's so nice getting to know a founder, somebody whose heart is truly just here for the people. We want to make it better, and we want to serve our patients in the best way possible. So thank you so much for your insights on how we can improve ourselves as temps, how we can improve our dental offices. And we all look forward to working with you when you come to our city.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. Yeah. Honestly, this has been a pleasure. I really enjoy getting to know you guys too in the chat, for sure.